This is the Armstrong and Getty Show.
What we will do today is pass the bill, which will then be sent to the president and become law. We will this afternoon pass the
reconciliation. If I can reclaim my time, the gentlewoman has just stated it.
Please let me answer.
Very clearly now.
Please let me answer.
The gentleman from California controls the time.
Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, we now know with absolute certainty that the only thing
no,
that
you don't.
Mr. Speaker, we are guaranteed is...
No, you don't.
Mr. Speaker, the House is not in order. Mr. Speaker,
you
the House
don't know that.
Tape from the South Korean parliament there.
That's right. When my wife and I tuned into C-SPAN yesterday, we thought, wow, this is great. Slowed down considerably from there. That dramatic music was added in later, though. I don't remember there being...
They don't play dramatic music in the house?
Some synthesizer there pumping up the drama.
That was actually the United States House of Representatives debating the so-called health care reform bill to analyze a passage of said bill and discuss the future. We've invited a good old friend of the Armstrong and Getty Show, Congressman Tom McClintock, onto the show. Congressman, how are you, sir?
I'm doing just fine. I'm recovering from that high water mark in the age of reason.
How many hours were you in that room yesterday?
Well, there's technically 3 hours of debate. One hour on the rule, 2 hours on the bills. But with all the procedural stuff, it went on from 2 o'clock in the afternoon until we got out around midnight.
The age of reason.
That's pretty damned amusing.
That is funny.
You know, I got an email from Barack Obama this morning.
How's he doing,
Mr. Congressman? Well, he says that this is an historic moment and that it's great for everybody and will finally start reducing the cost of care, creating millions of jobs, preventing families and businesses from plunging into bankruptcy, and removing over $1 trillion of debt from the backs of our children. How can you possibly be against that?
Your response?
He's right. It is an historic moment. For the first time in history, the federal government is going to be forcing Americans to purchase products and face steep fines or imprisonment if they don't. He's wrong about all of the rest. This is going to mean higher premiums, higher taxes, lower wages, fewer jobs, a loss of choice in health insurance, and a declining availability of health care because of the price controls that always create shortages.
What about the CBO estimate that came out whenever it was Thursday or Friday last week that said it is going to save us, however many gazillion dollars over the next 20 years?
Well, you have to understand what they were rating. They were rating 10 years of revenue and 6 years of spending. That's the only reason they can claim that that's going to save money. And don't forget, even so, in order to make that claim, they're having to count, of course, $500 billion of new taxes as a result of this measure, and $500 billion of Medicare cuts, Medicare that's already approaching bankruptcy. I mean, what they want you to believe is that you can provide free health insurance for 30 million people and reduce the deficit at the same time. And as Steve Moore of the Wall Street Journal said, well, if it's that easy, then why don't we buy free insurance for everybody in China and wipe out the entire national debt?
That's pretty funny.
That is pretty funny. Tom, I mean, just for instance, it's my contention that there is no way those cuts to Medicare are going to happen. They will, quote, re-examine the numbers in a year or two and decide, well, no doctors will treat the people for the level of compensation we're talking about, and so those supposed savings will vanish.
Well, that's quite right. In fact, doctors are already now turning away Medicare patients because of the low reimbursement rates. And on top of that, there's another quarter, I believe it's $250 billion of what of the so-called doctor's fix of under the current Medicare law. Doctors' reimbursements are supposed to be declining every time there's a deficit in the Medicare budget. Well, Medicare is on the verge of bankruptcy. There are huge cuts in reimbursements that are already programmed into the law. Congress has routinely suspended those reductions. That's $250 billion, and that's not in the CBO's estimate.
Well, and I don't want to get off on this too far, but the reason they suspend those cuts all the time is because they're incredibly politically unpopular, and they would cause such terrible problems because Medicare patients wouldn't be able to get treatment.
Right. Well, Medicare has followed the pattern of every single government takeover of a health care system that we've seen either in other countries or in other states or in our own country with things like Medicare. You have massive cost overruns that are then followed by a brutal rationing of care. Medicare is now entering that final stage of a bureaucratic takeover of the healthcare system, and even seeing all of that, this administration now wants to expand that to the entire health insurance market and 1/6 of the entire U.S. economy.
I was just flipping back and forth between various channels last night, and you'd go back and forth, say, between Fox News and MSNBC, and there would be tremendous glee on one side and then apocalyptic doom on the other side. Is it just seeing the difference between whether or not you think healthcare for those 32 million is a right or not? Is that where we disagree?
Well, it's not just that as a question. It's a question of if you're going to declare it a right, then how are you going to extend that right? And as Milton Friedman often said, there's no such thing as a free lunch. That's why you're going to see higher premiums as a result of this, as the federal mandates kick in, and the health insurance you'll be forced to pay, and there are going to be 16,000 new IRS agents to enforce this edict. You're going to have to buy insurance that includes every single mandate of the new federal health SAR. So your premiums are going to go up as a result of that. You're going to be facing higher taxes, again, $500 billion of higher taxes in this measure. Lower wages. Caterpillar just announced that their estimate is this is going to cost their company an additional $100 million a year for that single company. That means $100 million fewer employees as a result. You're going to have a loss of choice because the federal health czar is now going to be telling you everything that you have to buy in your health insurance plan, and there's going to be declining availability because, as I said, every time a wage and price control has been imposed since the first days that they were attempted under Hammurabi in the Mesopotamian Valley, you are going to have shortages of whatever it is that you're trying to control.
Congressman Tom McClintock is on the line. Would you agree that something needed to be done about the fact that if you switch jobs and you have a pre-existing condition, you can't get any health coverage, or insurance companies dropping people because they got sick?
Of course, but here's how you do that. You've got to separate out first all of those pre-existing conditions that aren't life-threatening. I've often told the story. A fellow a few years ago came to my office and said, "Look, I just changed jobs. I lost my employer insurance. I went into the private market, and I can't get health insurance because I have a pre-existing condition, bursitis." And the guy says, I don't care about the bursitis. I care about a catastrophic illness or injury that could bankrupt me. So just write me a policy for everything else, and I'll take care of the bursitis myself. And the insurance company said, we'd love to do that, but we can't. It's against the law. So once you've separated out all of those pre-existing conditions like bursitis, then you're left with those that are truly life-threatening, and those can be easily managed through a assigned risk pool, the same way that we assign risk for risky drivers in the automobile insurance market.
Go ahead.
What if you have cancer? Are you just a charity case for the rest of your life?
Well, no, that's when you go into the assigned risk pool.
Okay.
And the cost the cost of that is then spread across the entire industry base.
Please,
and again, we already do that with automobile insurance.
Please, no urinating in the assigned risk pool.
We're talking with Congressman Tom McClintock. We have representatives to go off to D.C. to represent us and at some level to make wiser decisions than mob rule would make. But at the same time, do you remember a time when major legislation was passed against the polling like this? I don't recall a time when polling showed that America wanted one thing, but Congress voted another direction. This big a dichotomy.
Certainly not on this magnitude. I don't know of another example.
Man, that's incredible.
It is odd. Why? Why were they so moved to do it?